Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And today I thought we'd do something a little bit different. For the most part, the internet has lost its collective mind, or at least Twitter has, over the last few days after this guy reviewed, I guess it was an AI pin thing that honestly really is not ready for market. But, Twitter's filled with insane people. And a lot of people were like, well, look, you're a huge YouTuber. This guy's got like 19 million subscribers. And any review he does could crush a small company. And is that ethical? Well, I mean, if the product is garbage, the product's garbage. But then again, there's, issues like it wasn't too long ago when we were dealing with, remember Linus Tech Tips? And they were putting out reviews on companies that they honestly didn't do enough actual review process on it. They completely ignored company specs and did a bunch of crazy stuff. And a big thing was with that water block with that one graphics card. They were trying to connect a water block specifically built for a single graphics card to a completely different system. And, they got called out for it. They got called out for a ton of their stuff. And they had to basically redo stuff from ground up. So, yeah, a lot of these big tech reviewers should be held accountable for stuff when they do a bad review. But the question is, was the review he did for the AI human, the little pin thing, bad? And honestly, no, it was a good review. But should he be held accountable if he does a bad review? Hard to say. See, it is YouTube, though. I mean, can YouTube sink a company? Maybe, maybe not. But, you can still call them out. You can call people out if they do a really bad job reviewing something. People call me out all the time on my reactions. Especially when I have horrible takes on rap because I'm terrible at learning how music works. But the reality is YouTube's complicated. But I really want to see kind of what his opinion on it is, because while I thought his review was really good, a lot of people called him out because he was his review in theory could sink a company because he does have 19 million subscribers, which is massive. But I still find that a little disingenuous because of the same concepts with Linus. It was entirely Linus Tech Tips' fault what happened on their end, and they had to basically come out with multiple apology videos over like a couple of months. And it's just this weird scenario where everyone likes to blame everyone else when honestly in some cases it's just the tech isn't ready. But yeah, let's take a look.
I review a lot of products, right? I've talked about hundreds, maybe thousands of products at this point. But as many videos as I've made about products, there are way more products out there in the world that exist. So the process of selecting which products to even review in the first place is like an art form to itself. Most products are just meh. They're fine. Like they exist.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. A lot of products do their little specific thing, but they're not going to change the world. Like the iPhone could be considered something that may or may not have changed the world for the better or for worse, but it definitely propelled smartphones to a new level. After that, but now it's iPhone 15 is no different than iPhone 12 for the most part. But yeah, no, he's not wrong. There's thousands of products, and most of these reviews are, they're reviews for what they are, and that's about it. You can like it or you can hate it, but if the product is garbage, the product is garbage.
They get made, they're fine, whatever. So they have to reach a certain level of interest or being really good to even be considered for a review, or sometimes really, really bad. So there's been a lot of interesting discourse lately on.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like most reviews for middle ground stuff, people just kind of ignore. They're just there. They're just kind of things. But the reviews that get a lot of people's attentions are the really bad reviews and the really good reviews. And there's no real middle ground for that. What was one that was recent that came out? I can't remember if it was this guy that did it. There's a lot of tech reviewers that are just really kind of all jumbled and blended together. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, it's Twitter, though. People on Twitter lose their mind over everything. It's kind of like the comment sections in YouTube. You'll get a comment, one for every 500 views or whatever. But when you have 18 million subs, you're gonna have comment wars, people just losing their minds in those things, and the majority of comments are not filtered in the same way, especially on
this
Twitter.
topic, there will be, some negative reviews, and then a company will eventually go out of business, and then the internet poses the question, do bad reviews kill companies? Do bad reviews kill companies? Or do bad products kill companies?
I'm going to say it's bad products, because if a product's good, even though someone hates it, they're still going to sell it, just maybe not as much. So it really depends. I mean, you'd have to have the other option is you can have a really bad product that gets better over time. But most things don't recover. An example of a game that did recover, though, would be No Man's Sky. But it didn't recover to where it would be now if it was good from the beginning. It was really, really bad in the very beginning. And and it's great now, but a lot of that negative review from the very beginning really killed its momentum. So there is some truth in that in a lot of ways. But, it's just complicated.
I do have a lot of thoughts. So two of the biggest examples that have been pointed to, especially on Twitter, were the Fisker Ocean review that I did and the Humane AI pin from a couple days ago. So the Fisker saga was pretty well documented, but in case you missed it, I reviewed a car, I had a pretty horrible experience with it, documented it, published the review on the Autofocus channel, and then a few months later, the entire company appears to be on life support, likely.
Yeah, but didn't Fisker do a bunch of crazy random nonsense? Like they actually offered reviews to other company, like other people, and then got wrecked even in those reviews. A lot of companies make huge mistakes and they give out their products to the same with game companies. Game companies give out like Steam keys, for instance, to reviewers on YouTube, and then get mad when the reviewers are like, "Yeah, this game is garbage. Do not pre-order it." Kind of what happened with what was that zombie game that kept getting delayed? The day before. Now, the day before had train wreck stuff all over the place, but I honestly just think it's bad products will sink most things, not reviews. Reviews kind of just help it along, really.
Filing for bankruptcy soon, and now this startup, Humane, they dropped their first product, this pin. I review it, it's not super positive. A lot of people are saying the same thing, and I don't even think Humane is going anywhere, by the way, but I think there is some pretty simple logic we can use to decipher what the real danger is to these companies, which is, do you still get a bunch of negative reviews and then die as a company if the product is actually really good? But let's back up for a second. What is a review? A little pet peeve of mine is I think people misuse or overuse that word a lot, but a review is just somebody uses a product and then just delivers their impressions on whether they think it's any good or not, how well it actually worked, and if their honest opinion is if it's good, then that's the review. If it's bad, that's the review.
I actually saw, I didn't see his review on the Humane pin, but I did see like the Humane pin itself, like at a conference that I was at in Vegas. And it was interesting because it's cool, right? It's a cool little gadget that you wear on your shirt, and it works like an Alexa effectively. But the problem is it's too slow. At least at the time when I saw it, it was just too slow. I could just grab my phone and point it at something, and it would work faster. So, I mean, the problem is, and phones are really fast, at least in comparison. And I guess if you're trying to do something discreetly, it could work, but the thing talks to you. So, I mean, I guess you could have a headset in, so that could work, but you still got to be talking to it. It needs to be a lot faster. So I could see it being really good in maybe 10 years or so when it's like instant, like a phone. Then you could just be like, hey, what's that over there? And it tells you instantly. But it takes like 45 seconds. Or at least it did at the time when I saw it. And I assume when they released it, it was a bit faster, but my guess is that was the biggest complaint. It's basically your phone that you can talk to without actually pressing a button, but it's just kind of an annoying little gimmick thing. Maybe if you needed to use it without hands. So if you were working on something like project wise and you couldn't put your hands down, it would work great. It would also probably really work really well for like the older generation who has mobility issues, or anyone who has a mobility issue and can only talk to stuff. So, or if you're in a wheelchair or have some other sort of disability and you can't use a phone, then it might work, and the delay may not be as big of a problem. But I think the way they're billing it, which is like $700, it's just not quite there yet. It kind of feels like a very expensive, like not earpiece. I was gonna say headphone, but that's not right. Hearing aid. There we go. Brain works occasionally. But that's that's a personal problem. But yeah, no, I just don't think it's ready yet.
That's basically it. And so I've been an advocate of good independent reviews for what feels like forever now. But the thing about reviews is, if they're not honest, then they're basically useless. I really strongly feel.
Yeah, that's the most important thing about a review. It just has to be honest. The product doesn't have to be good. It could be horrible. It could be amazing. It could be whatever, but it has to be honest, because if it's not, you're going to lose your entire base of people for doing reviews. There's no point in you just lying to people and being a corporate shill for any of these companies. Because yeah, sure, you'll get one. One paycheck from them that's $3,000 to $10,000 or whatever to be like, oh, this product's amazing. But if it's garbage and you have 10 million subscribers, then let's say, I don't know, one out of every 10,000 people buy one. All they need to do is post in the comments, "This was absolute trash." Why would you tell me? And that just completely tanks your complete authority, and you'll just lose subscribers by buckets at that point.
Feel like everything that comes from a review, all the consequences and everything that comes around it, everything in the world of an ecosystem of reviews, depends on the review being truthful and actually honest about things. So I'll just give an example. I've told this story before, but years ago, I remember I reviewed the first Razer phone when it came out. So Razer, gaming company, they make lots of stuff. They're getting into smartphones for the first time.
Oh man, I remember that phone. I bought that phone as a kid. Yeah, wasn't that great.
Made a phone that appeals to the same target demographic of gamers. So it had a bunch of upsides and downsides. Obviously, gaming-focused features. So it's got like front-facing speakers and a high refresh rate.
It was definitely more expensive than it should have been.
The battery was pretty big, but also the camera was weak. And I remember the vibration motor was horrible. And I remember calling it out. I remember saying this.
That was the vibration motor in this phone, trash. Straight trash. Yeah. I'm going to call myself so you can hear this.
Yeah, they never fixed that, by the way. It was that bad.
It sounds broken, but it sounded that way out the box since day one. So that is the Razer phone.
Just one of the worst vibration motors I've ever experienced in a new phone. So
it was pretty bad.
Fast forward a year, right? I'm at a briefing. It's in New York City. It's for the Razer Phone 2. And so they're walking me and some other people through this new phone they've made.
I didn't even look at the Razer Phone 2 because I had such a bad experience with the Razer Phone 1. I kind of wish I had actually seen that review. Maybe I would have looked at the Razer Phone 2, but I mean, it was just so horrible, the first one, that I just switched over from that point on to, I was going to say Samsung, but that's not right. The Motorola, or it's the, was it the S9? I don't know what series that is. I'm not very good with phones, apparently. It was the Samsung. I switched over to the Galaxies. That was it. So now I'm on my Galaxy, 21 or whatever.
And they've got a bunch of changes. It's got a glossy back. They added wireless charging now. The logo glows and the speakers are better and all this stuff. And they're talking us through it. And then the guy turns to me and he says, "And Marquez, you got to try the new vibration motor in this phone." And it's such a niche thing, but sure enough, I try it and it's way better. And that's, to me, that's a big part of what reviews are all about. That honest feedback turned into actually action for the company
Yeah, and that makes sense. That's a huge reason why a lot of game companies give out their Steam keys to players like the Spiffing Brit. Let's Game It Out. They know for a fact that those creators are going to go online, take their game, give it an honest review, and try to break it in any way possible. But it also works to improve their game if they're not like overly critical of all the flaws in it. And that's what's missing in a lot of the, on the Twitter thread where people were like, no, you can't say anything bad about a company or you're going to crush that company. What's wrong with you? Because there was a few like crazy whack jobs on Twitter doing that.
To make it better. So people who bought the first one knew what they were getting into, and people who bought the second one actually benefited from that. So that's number one. Honesty, obviously, super important.
Kind of wish I looked at
But
the second Razor,
thing
but oh well.
is these reviews are also definitely for the people that are watching them and consuming them. So you've probably been in the situation when you're about to buy something and you just want to double check. So you hop on YouTube, you search it up, watch a couple videos about the product just to make sure you're not missing anything. And then you either decide on the moment or later that day, like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to buy it.
Yeah, I totally did that when I was buying. When I couldn't figure out if I wanted to buy, the Xbox, the big square one, or the smaller white ones that go on the wall. I ended up going with the small ones because I don't play games as often, but and now I have 4 of them in my house, which just suck up a ton of electricity. But, if I wouldn't have checked out the reviews online, I probably would have waited during that whole shortage and never would have had Xboxes. And don't even tell me how bad just having an Xbox is, but it works great as a media center that just stays updated. That's it. Anyway.
We've all been there. That's the reason. That's exactly how this YouTube channel started. Like my first ever tech video was reviewing a laptop, but specifically I bought the laptop with my allowance money in high school, and I found a Windows Media Center remote in the PCI slot that wasn't in any of the other reviews. So the first thing I decided to do was talk through it in a video so that anyone else who bought the laptop after me would know about it. So you're thinking about buying the thing, you watch a couple reviews of the thing, you learn everything you need to know, boom, success. But here's where it gets a little bit interesting. I do have a bit of an extra dimension on my hands with these videos because I know that there's no way that every single person watching a review of every single product is one of those people who was considering buying it. I get that comment actually in person all the time. I watch the reviews even though I'm not buying any of this stuff. So I know that a lot of people, in fact, most people watching these videos are actually just here to watch an interesting, informative...
Yeah, that's true. I've seen a ton of tech videos for items I would never buy. Perfect example would be when I brought up the Linus Tech Tip issue when they were talking about that graphics card that they said was garbage, or the water block that they had. I don't even own that graphics card, and nor was I ever going to buy that graphics card. I thought it was a cool video. And then I saw what happened and why it was, really bad in a lot of ways, because they just skipped a lot of corners, and they basically did the entire opposite thing of what that video would have been useful for if they'd actually gotten the right graphics card for it. But I was never going to buy that water block. I just wanted to see a cool video, and it's entertaining to watch that series. But yeah, no, I can see that as being a huge issue.
Good video in general, an entertaining video. And so the way that I satisfy those things is much more subjective, I think. Like everyone has a different way they do it. Everyone has a different target demographic. But that's a little bit of a new dimension. So then I think if we go back to the original question, so can a video kill a company? I'll use the Humane and Fisker examples specifically. The Fisker Ocean was a terrible car. It is a terrible car. I've reviewed about 40, 50 different cars in the past few years, made videos about many of them. This is the first one where I...
At the very least, it's ugly.
genuinely couldn't wait to be done driving it. Like, it just had tons of problems, bugs, missing features, safety issues. Like, it's just bad,
that's
right?
pretty bad.
So I review the thing. I give people what I feel is a fair assessment that also doubles as a warning not to buy this bad car. So hopefully it's entertaining and informative to the majority of people who weren't thinking about buying the car, but also that it is as honest as possible with the people who are. And maybe a week or two later, the company's stock price is plummeting to an all-time low, and they appear to be like filing for bankruptcy. Cue the internet going nuts, which I get.
I mean, it would generally, in most cases, take longer, but the problem is he does have a massive, upwards of 20 million subscribers. So let's say he's got, 18 or 19 million subscribers, probably 17 million at the time, right? That's only subscribers. Do you know how many people watch my videos that have never subscribed to anything? Which you can totally do. Go subscribe. I got thousands of views and like no subscribers. Which is fine. That's not a huge deal. But yeah, I mean, I'm not doing a service. I'm just reacting to things and talking and saying my dumb opinion, which some people like and a lot of people don't. But yeah, I mean, he has somewhat of a responsibility, like Linus, in the fact that a lot of people will listen to those reviews and they will make the massive opinion on that. Now, I don't know if it would have really caused the stock price drop in this case. That company was probably going to have that issue regardless because there was probably other stuff going on at the same time. But people will be like, it's his fault. Destroy him.
Yeah, I guess I get it. Like, obviously, it makes a nice headline, like, oh, this review came out and it killed this company. This review bankrupted all of Fisker, maybe. Like, there was a whole Morning Brew thread on how Fisker handled this video so poorly that they're now going to go bankrupt because of it. Also, there were whole stock investments themed channels saying this was like a paid, promoted attack against.
The reality is, though, the majority of the shareholders are not watching these YouTube videos. They're just like, they're sitting there on Robinhood. They're like, yeah, this one looks like a good one. So, some of the big shareholders might, but for the most part, the majority are probably not even paying attention to YouTube channels. At least not these.
Against the Fisker stock price. Like, it got pretty crazy. But did one review kill the entire company?
No, that company's had issues all over the place.
To zoom out a bit, I think it's important to zoom out a bit, actually. First of all, I was not the only one to review the car, not even close. And so yes, the stock price did drop after my video, but the stock was in free fall for many, many months before my video too. And if you zoom out on YouTube or in the car review space in general, I was far from the only person saying these things about the car for all of these months.
If Fisker's still at 2 cents, it might be a good thing to drop in $50. This is not financial advice. This is gambling advice. Which would be 50-50, a horrible idea. So probably shouldn't do it regardless.
Many other reviewers had been having
tons of people have been reviewing that car. It's been popping up all over my feeds.
With this thing, actually, I feel like that might be the easiest way to tell if a review is honest or not. Like, we're all reviewing the same product, basically.
And you're all saying probably the same stuff.
So we're all going to find a lot of the same things. We're all eventually going to have a lot of the same upsides, downsides. If there are issues, they may eventually surface. So yeah, they're probably going to agree with each other. A bunch of honest reviews. They'll all say a lot of the same stuff. Oh, and also in the U.S., the stock price. There's this thing where if a stock, what is it? If it's below a dollar for however many days in a row, then they'll get a warning.
Really?
They may be delisted, and they have 6 months to get the stock price back up over $1. And Fisker.
Huh. I didn't know that, but I primarily trade crypto. So that's good to know.
Had just received that notice right around the same time that I think right before my video came out, actually. And if you're an investor, you're looking at that. That's the type of stuff that really tanks the stock price, if you're asking me. And if you're asking me personally, I literally don't care what the stock price is of any company, of any product I review. I just don't care. And so if I'm talking about a product, that will never have anything to do with what I say about the product. And I hope that's not true about other people either. And I shouldn't even have to say this. I'm not invested in any companies that I cover. It's just
the share price generally has nothing to do with the product itself. In most cases, it can, but in most cases, it's not gonna. That's all shareholder stuff. That's not actually the product is kind of the face of the thing, but for the most part, it's mostly shareholder sentiment is kind of how that works.
Just a matter of trying to make an informative, educational, and honest video review. That's my goal. My only goal is to do that. And I don't have any duty to any of the companies whose products I cover. It is only to the people watching the videos. So now,
which is good, which means he's not being paid by these companies to do reviews. He's probably still getting a lot of free products to do reviews on, but a company is kind of rolling the dice with that one.
now, okay, fast forward to, pretty recently, the Humane AI pin comes out. A lot of the same stuff, right? Like this pin has a lot of missing promises. That, the things it doesn't actually do super well. The battery life is bad. It overheats. The laser projector is kind of bad. Like the list just goes on and on. I tried
Oh, it actually has a laser projector now, huh? The first time I saw that thing, that didn't even work.
to be as fair as possible and as informative as possible, but I'm also absolutely not about to sugarcoat or leave anything out to protect any company's $700 device with a monthly subscription. Not into that.
Yeah.
But yet, even still, there are some threads blowing up saying it's extra bad what I did to this poor company. And, maybe.
Yeah, that guy had a weird take. This guy had a really weird take. I'm like, it's not unethical if the equipment is garbage, and it was garbage long before he started working on it.
It's extra
doing his
bad
review.
what I did to this poor company. And, maybe you could argue, since this is the biggest channel that covered it, maybe there's some extra impact there. But again, I would say to zoom out. I just zoom out again. I was not the first, actually, even to cover the Humane pin, but I'm also far from the only one to talk about it. And even a little inside baseball, when a product comes out that's this notable or this bad, which isn't very often, a lot of reviewers, it's stressful. You want to make sure you get everything right. A lot of us are literally trading notes and trying to figure out, when mine died in 2 hours and overheated on my chest without doing anything, I thought it was an issue with mine.
No, that was an issue even at the Vegas fair where that thing was being showcased originally. And the people on the floor who were showcasing the thing were having the overheat problem. So that's not even new, but yeah, I mean, it's only a problem when you lie, when you don't use the product as it was intended. If you're like, oh yeah, I got this snorkel set. It's a brand new high-tech snorkel set. I'm gonna go use it at the movie theater. Let's see how that works. And then you basically lie about all its features. Like, yeah, this didn't work at all. And you're like, what?
Fine. And I was texting a couple others, and sure enough, they're having the same things happen to them. So we're all trying to be as thorough as possible and making sure our reviews are truthful. And so that's how you get a bunch of truthful reviews. Now, you could argue, and I think the guy on Twitter did, that the packaging was too clickbaity, and I totally get that. But I also stand by our title and thumbnail, and especially the end of the title. But keep in mind the dimension that most of the people who see this in their feed and their subscription box have never heard of the Humane AI pin. And this will be the first time they hear about it, and they click on it, hopefully, and then they're delivered with...
All right. People need to realize something. What you say on Twitter as a title and what you say on YouTube as a title is completely different. YouTube requires you to be weird and clickbaity and do that kind of stuff. Otherwise, people just don't even click on anything. It just doesn't work. Which is, and I can guarantee you that because I have some of the worst titles ever, and I just don't get clicks on it. Not because, and I have friends who have done the same type of reactions, same stuff. They have way better, titles and everything like that, and people leaps and bounds click on it more than mine, even though I have potentially better thumbnails. It's really clickbaity. The better your thumbnail looks on YouTube, and the better your attention-grabbing title is more important because you upload 4.5 million videos a day on the channel, and you got to stand out in one way.
A thoughtful, well-considered, balanced, and honest, and entertaining and informative video that happens to be a review. So look, I've reviewed a lot of bad products in my day. You might remember some of them. You might remember the Dyson headphones or the Red Hydrogen One.
Those things were terrible.
Slate, or the HTC U Ultra. The list goes on. But one thing has definitely been clear and consistent throughout all of this, which is anytime the company goes under, you don't get those bad reviews without the product being bad to begin with.
That's
obviously.
right.
I have a massive amount of respect and appreciation for people and groups of people who are actually making new stuff, like building products. That's the hard part at the end of the day. And we get to get a whole bunch of new exciting things that might change the world, and that's really exciting. But my reviews, technically, are not for them. All that any honest review actually does is just accelerate whatever was already going on. Think of it that way.
He's not wrong.
Okay.
That's exactly
Thanks for
how
watching.
that works.
Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, that was a good response. I didn't watch his actual review. I assume it's along the same lines of the same problems that pin has always had. But yeah, no, I mean, people will just be people, especially on Twitter. Have a good day, everyone.